Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Uchenna. I also go by Transformation Geek. I might change that name. But welcome. So I'm a psychic medium and mother and stay-at-home mom, and I also have a child on the spectrum. So this video is going to be about today is my whole spiritual kind of like how I've grown spiritually just by the influence of autism, what I did, what I didn't do, and what I've learned moving forward. So if you're a mom like me, you like spirituality stuff, you have a child on the spectrum, hey, we could hang out here. So like I said, my name is Uchenna. Yes, Uchenna. I am Nigerian, not originally from. I'm Nigerian. I now live in the United States. So my son was about 3 years old when he was first diagnosed with autism. I started to notice that some things were like he wasn't meeting certain milestones, and my husband kept saying it was okay, but I decided, you know what, let's go get it checked out. Both the gardeners here, and so we did. He wasn't pointing. And he had feeding issues when he was a baby, and it was he had a lot of feeding issues. So by feeding issues, let me elaborate. I mean breastfeeding. It was very difficult to breastfeed. He didn't know how to latch on properly. Turns out there was like now I'm aware now that it was like some issues with the muscles, and he couldn't latch on properly, and how to be coached on how to do it. And yeah, so the whole thing with autism has been a very, very emotionally intense journey because of how certain businesses are set up to tap into a part of you as a parent that is afraid. You're afraid for the child's future. You're afraid for future outcomes. You're afraid of future disability that might affect their ability to live, to love, to have a good job and have a good life, especially in a capitalist environment like the United States, where your ability to work and earn money directly correlates to your ability to have a good quality of life. And many of us are genuinely worried. You know, it's a genuine concern. Like, how is my child going to survive without me? That's my job. My job is to make sure that my child in stages can learn to survive on his or her own without me, because I'm not going to be around forever, which is one of those fears that if you don't manage as a parent, period, it's going to come back and you'll make horrible choices. Like in my case, I was so terrified that when the provider gave me 40 hours of ABA, I should have said no. Why would I need someone to be in my house for 8 hours teaching my child exactly what is he supposed to know at that age that requires him to learn 8 hours a day every day? He doesn't have any teeth yet, so he can't brush his teeth. He's still on diapers, so he doesn't need toilet. He doesn't need to be potty trained yet. That was a lot. It was totally unnecessary. It was overkill. So we did that for about a year. Eventually, one of the therapists abused my son by burning him with a cigarette and almost set my house on fire. So I canceled services. But I say that to say that I went along with it so long because the doctor told me, these ABA people, they are miracle workers. They are miracle workers. You'll see what they'll do. Your child will be able to do everything. Just let me write you the prescription. And she refers us to Easter seals. This is not anything against Easter seals, but the particular office we went to, I think ABA can be helpful if it's in hands of the right people. Excuse me, I'm on my phone in the car. If you come, so basically what they do is that they have a therapist who most likely has a master's or PhD in childhood developmental, education, and they literally put out an ad and say, if you're interested in working with children with developmental challenges, apply here. So you could be a total stranger off the street. They give you this short training for 8 hours, and they send this total stranger over to your house for 8 hours a day. And they send multiple. They don't just send one person. They send 2 or 3, 4 people, and then some of them are really mean. I had one coming in, I was like this to my son, and I had another one that will pull his ear they were just very mean-spirited people. And eventually I started to send, immediately I noticed anything, I'm like, you don't come back. You know, I was still coming into myself, my empress energy. I was like, you don't come back, you don't come back, I don't want to see you here again. Like I said, eventually I quit my full-time job. I was a registered nurse at the time, and I became part-time, but still that wasn't enough oversight, because I came home one day and my house literally was smoke plumes coming out of my house. I thought my house was on fire, only to walk in, and the ABA therapist and the babysitter were having a smoke session, and they burnt my son under his armpit with a cigarette stub. So there is definitely guilt there on my end, because I was feeling like I could get help so that I could keep going to work, because insurance is what keeps this ABA around. So if you don't work, how are you going to get insurance to you see what I mean? It's kind of like a circle that's the Ouroboros, the tail just, you know, keeps going round and round till you break the cycle, right? So I cut off ABA, took a year break, and then we came back, and this time I took control of the process. I interviewed the person they brought over here, and she was a very good fit. In fact, the last ABA therapist that came to our house, she has a degree in psychology, very nice girl, and my son was her only client, and she would go with him to school and come home with him a couple hours a day. My son was never tired of her. In fact, he thinks she's his friend. And very good. A bunch of stuff my son knows, she taught him how to write, and it's a very good relationship. Now, at what point did I start developing my psychic abilities? I just got tired of running around to snake oil salesmen telling me, here's the next new therapy, take this vitamin, it's going to be good for your son's bowels, and do this therapy over here, it's going to help with the cognition. So we were sold a lot of snake oil over the years. All because I refused to balance my root chakra. So when I realized that these people were tapping into a part of me that was afraid of the future, and that's why they were able to do this. They're able to make money off of you. All parents with children on spectrum, listen to me. Every single dime you have spent in supplement here, therapy here, and all this is all based on fear. They are tapping into your fear of the future to sell you some of these things your child will never need. Okay, the supplements I'll be very careful of, because you don't know what you're putting in your child. Like I got one supplement for my child where they say it will help balance the bacteria, and my child was like a zombie, because turns out we don't know how they culture whatever it is in that jar, and there are hundreds of people giving that to their children, thinking that is the cure. And many of them are very good at mind bending. They will convince you that, oh, the child said your name. Oh, it could just be like your child just hit the milestone on their own. They just got to it when they got to it. Oh yeah, it's the medicine. It's working. It's the therapy. It's working. And to give you an example, I found this therapy that said they put electrodes on the brain, and the child, watches TV, and if the TV gets dim, the child has to use their mind to make it work. Sounds great on paper, till you realize that it works perfectly for people who have some measure of control. Certain levels of autism, that will not work. My son is like level 2. So it works well with people on depression, for people with depression, people with depression, ADD, and some other cognitive imbalances, but not autism, because guess what? Autism never goes away. Autism is a chronic, you're born with it, pretty much. That's it. So I think my epiphany came for me, and realizing that I was the one who needed to change, not him. There was nothing wrong with me. I was the one who needed to change. I was the one driving him around to all these different places. I was the one buying all these weird supplements on the internet. I was the one doing all of that. He was perfectly happy, just growing at his own pace. Looking back, because hindsight is always 2020. Looking back, I think a better investment would have been in giving him more very pleasant childhood memories. That would have done all of us good than just going everywhere. So where is the spiritual aspect that I mentioned? So I got out of frustration. Um, Out of frustration, I was tired of being led around by the nose and not knowing what was going on with my life. I decided, you know what, I'm going to tap into my psychic abilities, which are pretty much dormant at the time. I did not use them for anything. And the first test was this test I told you guys about this place where they put electrodes on his head. Spirit was clear that this was just a trick. Someone was not telling the entire truth and it was not going to work. But I thought maybe I didn't understand what Spirit was trying to say. I didn't read the cards properly. This was going to be good. This was going to work out. So I took out this huge, it cost about $8,000, and gave it to them. And Spirit was right. It didn't work. Nothing worked. So they called me on the phone because these people are very good at mentally manipulating. So have you noticed any improvement, anything? I'm like, no, he's still the same person that he was when I took him over there. Like, oh, really? You didn't notice anything? I'm like, no, not even one thing. I'm like, no, he's in school right now and he has to have someone sit with him because he can't even sit in his chair. He can't pay attention long enough so he can sit in his chair. So no, this is not working. Oh my god, I can't believe this. And they refer me to their head honcho, of course, to come and do some more mind Jedi on me so that I'll start to do more. But it's already clear. I know what's going on, so that's not gonna work. But I say that to parents too. From my perspective, if you're on a spiritual journey and this is part of your experience, I highly suggest that we work on our root chakra. And I'm done work on my root chakra. I'm still doing work because avoiding that fear-based response will greatly impact your ability to live and your mental health and your child's overall well-being. So I had a partner one time when we were doing past life readings on ourselves. I said I'll mention the spiritual aspect, right? And in this past life reading, it turns out I had a past life somewhere in Asia, and I was a little boy. I was a little boy born into a very prominent family in the Asian political hierarchy, and turns out there was a lot of societal pressure on my mother to raise me to be a leader, to take my father's place, and I didn't like it. I cried a lot. She made me write with these giant brushes and ink, and mind you, in those days those brushes and those inks were very expensive, so my family was very affluent, and I hated it. I saw myself as like I'm experiencing it, and I saw my mother and I saw her thinking of what society will think, that she didn't give them a good quality hair that can lead the community, and then they will probably replace her and ask her husband to marry a new wife because she failed in her wifely duties. And also the boy who's like, I don't want to do this, I just want to be a little boy, I didn't ask you guys to be political bigwigs, and I just want to be a little boy. And that was a conflict. And then fast forward to 2021, I realized that I have to break the cycle because I'm doing the same thing. I'm looking at my son, looking at societal pressures that, oh, how is he going to be normal? How is he going to go to normal school and have normal job and live up to society's expectations? Oh, by the way, did you notice that our skin is dark? Yeah, I have to also prove that I'm a human being. My color of my skin doesn't impact my intellectual ability. And I also have to prove that through my child, who has to get all A's, who has to be very smart wherever he goes, speak very good English, make good money. Like, I was putting societal pressure on my son like I did in my past life. And I think that's when it hit me, like, oh, this is a cycle I need to break. The cycle I need to break is the change that needs to happen is in me. The child is, there's nothing wrong with the child, it's me. I need to step away from trying to make him fit into societal roles and societal expectations. and figure out, like zoom in on him and figure out what exactly bothers him and how do I help him with it. It doesn't matter what society thinks. I could, like I don't know, I may have mentioned it in the beginning of the video, and if I haven't, I apologize, but I was a registered nurse, and I've had situations where I walk into the room and someone would be like, "You, a black person, you're the nurse?" Like, so much disgust and disdain on their face. And a part of me feels like, oh, my child has something to prove. But then again, I'm like, why should my child prove anything? I already proved myself. I went to school, I did all this, and that was the response. So why am I going to put my child through that? A part of me also struggles with helping him get better. I'm going to be transparent, because I'm like, is this the world that I want? Is this the world I want him to be fully aware of? That he's going to be discriminated against because of the color of his skin? He's going to be treated differently because of that? Is that what I want him to wake up to? Maybe it's not a bad thing he has autism. He's autistic. Not has autism, he's autistic. But then again, I cannot shy away from my duties as a mother. And what do I mean when I say that? Like, I have to take him and make sure and get allergy testing, which is, I feel it's, my husband and I talked about it yesterday, because I mentioned tuning into my son in meditation, and I noticed that it felt like I couldn't see clearly, I couldn't hear clearly. It was like pressure on my head. And my husband says, well, that's what brain fog feels like. So if he has brain fog, we need to find what the offending chemical is and get rid of it. So I'm thinking, okay, instead of guessing, we might as well pay for allergy testing and get it down to the minutia of what foods his body likes and doesn't like, and then go from there. And then have fun. Just have fun. For who are we living for, and what am I living for? If I live in an environment that says, I will never respect you because you look this way, what's the point? Like, if I'm going to do anything, I might as well do it because I enjoy it, not because I'm trying to prove a point, because it just feels like you're giving your power away. You're giving the power to people who wouldn't care if you live or died. Actually, I feel like they behave like that because it makes them feel powerful. And doing and behaving like that and stressing myself and doing all that further validates their behavior and their mindset and their thinking. It's similar. Mine is like to push my child to be this exemplary leader, but people are doing it other ways. They're buying designer goods and living in certain areas of the environment and doing certain things because they want to be perceived a certain way. While we cannot be childish and say perception is not part of the deal, we have to balance it out and make sure that we're living true to ourselves and for ourselves. And that, my friends, is the story of how my journey, my spiritual journey, started with autism, and the lessons I've learned about self and living for yourself and living true to yourself, and not letting people dictate what choices you make for your overall life based on their opinions of you, and really reconciling what is best for your child and doing that. So if any of this I said resonates with you, or you have something to add, mind you, I'm not going to be promoting any therapies, any diets, any supplements. If I do something for my child and I mention it, it's just going to be, it worked for me. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's going to work for you as well. So there's definitely a lot of research and a lot of tuning into your child that you have to do for yourself, and figure out what that child has come to teach you, and learn it so that you can break the cycle and move on. I love you all, and I'll hope to see you again. I hope this has been really helpful. You know, I try to be as authentic as possible and not try to authentic as possible, and I hope that you felt that. So please give me a like, that thumbs up button's right there if you like it. And if you like to stick around, I do post a lot of spirituality content, and of course about my life and the lessons I'm learning. hit the subscribe button, and I will see you later. Bye bye. I love you guys. I love you so much. Mwah.